Everyone that knows me knows that I have a true love-hate relationship with Airbnb. And in this video, you're going to see more of the hate than the love. Let me begin with an email that I received from Airbnb. Everybody knows that Airbnb usually releases like their winter release, summer release, but this release is different. And I am going to share my screen so that you can see the email that I received. And if you're a host, you got this email. And we're going to talk about this email and what it means for us as hosts. Here's what the email reads. Review our updated offsite payment and fee policy. Let me just give you a quick background here. There's a lot of Airbnb hosts like myself that have the privilege to do stuff off-site. Now, if you follow the channel, I've been talking about this before. One of the reasons why to work with a company like mine is because we have or had privileges that many other hosts don't have. And I'm going to give you a few of those privileges. Number one, we have a dedicated Airbnb personnel assigned to us. So if I have any issues, they give us data updates. There's a lot of stuff that I get from this Airbnb representative that's assigned specifically to my account. In addition to that, because I am an API connected, meaning my properties are all from a PMS system that is attached to an OTA, we're allowed to do certain things off platform. I'll give you some of the examples that we're allowed to do off platform. We are allowed to communicate off platform. We are allowed to receive payments off platform. We are allowed to receive ID and conduct background checks off platform. There's a lot that we're allowed to do off platform because we are an API connected property. So, and this is one of the reasons why I've been preaching any host, regardless of who you are, get a PMS system like Hostfully so that you can receive some of these privileges that most hosts cannot if they're not API connected. But anyways, the email, I'm going to read the whole email now. We are updating our offsite payment and fee transparency policy to strengthen the trust in our community, provide more clarity to the guests, and comply with price transparency laws in the US, including a new trade commission rule. Let's stop right there. This is the reason why they're saying it, but this is not the reason. In addition to that, this does not apply to 99% of us. If you're a host in California, then some of this applies to you as it relates to price transparency. But some of this other stuff has nothing to do with price transparency whatsoever. But let's continue. Here's what you need to know. Mandatory fees that guests need to pay, such as utilities, pet fees, and resort fees, must be included in the nightly price or additional charges in your calendar price setting. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, not at all. In fact, we do that. Any mandatory fees not included in a listing's total price at checkout are no longer allowed. Okay, I'm good with that as well. You know, we want transparency. Even though right now, even without this policy that exists, the guest has the option to click on whether they want just the total price or they want a breakdown on the price, right? So why they had to reiterate this, I have no idea because this is already a policy. Now, here's where some of the stuff changes. Optional add-ons like paid parking can be offered to a guest, but it must be stated in the listing description or house rules and processed through the resolution center. This is where I have a big freaking issue, right? This is where it starts. And this is just the beginning, people. As an API connected property, this really doesn't affect me because I can still do stuff off platform. And it's unclear at this point if this is part of not allowed in the off platform. Based on what I'm reading and based on some of my contact with Airbnb that's assigned to us, she's saying we can still do this, as long as it's in the description, which we do have it in the description. It is in the description that there's certain things that they have to pay. And none of our properties have paid parking. So this is the paid parking is not the example that applies to me, but I'm going to give you an example that does apply to me, but it doesn't apply to all guests. For us, if you have a pet, we have an additional cleaning fee. It's not a pet fee, but it's an additional cleaning fee. It is clearly listed in my listing, but it doesn't apply to all of them. So I can't put that, add that onto my pricing because it doesn't apply to everyone. It only applies to someone that's going to bring a pet. It's a $50 cleaning fee for the actual pet. Now, it is part of or listed in my description even prior to someone booking. So right now, I think I'm okay with this part. Now let's move on. Any reservation changes, such as date, number of guests, must be made directly to the booking by selecting changing reservation in the reservation details. Normally, everything for us is done through our PMS system. This is another unknown for me right now because everything we do is on the PMS system. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to do this on the PMS system or if I have to actually sign into my account. There is a caveat, and it's not in this email, but I found it in the actual policy, that if you're an API connected system, most of this won't apply. There's a couple of things that does, but most of this will not apply. Next one is the security deposit. Security deposits can no longer be collected with limited exception. Again, the exception is going to be the API connected properties. Or if you're a hotel. If you're a hotel or you're an API connected property, you can still collect the security deposit. But that security deposit needs to be collected, again, through the resolution center. You can't collect it now off platform. And again, I think hotels are going to be exempt on this. At least that's what I read. It did not, on this particular section, it did not include API connected properties, or not, it's not mentioned, but it's not mentioned that you can't do it. So for now, I'm going to continue to collect it off platform until clarification is there. But the big one is for those of you that are not API connected, you can't do it anymore. You can't do any of this stuff anymore if you're not API connected. I hope a lot of you wake the F up about Airbnb because I've said this 1,000 times and I'm going to say it 1,000 times more. Airbnb is not on your side. They are not your friend. They are a necessity in this business, and I'll show you some of my numbers. They do bring in a lot of business. I've been preaching this. I've been doing this myself, and I'm going to show you numbers in this video on how I am trying to cut the cord from Airbnb, and every year I get closer and closer, and hopefully in 2026, I don't have to advertise on Airbnb anymore, and that, my friends, will be a true blessing from God. Please let 2026 be the year I never have to deal with Airbnb again. Let me continue to read. To address damages and accidents that happen during a stay, Airbnb offers a top-to-bottom protection through aircover host. This is so frustrating because if anyone ever had to deal with Airbnb and aircover, you know what a pain in the ass they are. They don't make it easy. You have to send the same information multiple times to multiple people in the hopes that one of these check the box people that have zero common sense will approve it. Now, payments for all fees must be processed through Airbnb, again, with limited exceptions. The limited exceptions are if you're a hotel or you're API connected, right? And this goes into effect on May 10th, 2025. I mean, my blood is boiling, but thankfully, I am an API connected property. This doesn't affect a lot of what I do, with the exception of the background checks. We can't ask for that information anymore like we used to. I'm going to share my screen again because I'm going to show you a video. Now, in this video, it's Sean Rakovich. If you don't know who he is an Airbnb guru, does a lot of videos on Airbnb, has a lot of great information. For years, I wasn't a fan because he pushed Airbnb arbitrage, which is something that I've been totally against for a long time. It has a lot of people. It actually has hurt the industry itself. He was a big Airbnb arbitrage proponent, and he has recently changed his tune on that, or at least for the last couple of years, because he lost his ass on it. Although he still teaches courses on it. It really chaps my ass. But he does have a lot of great information. He is a good source of information. I recommend that you follow him if you are a host and an operator, because he does provide some good stuff. And this is one of them. He did 2 videos. I'm going to show you the second video, which is the follow-up to the first. In the first one, he talked about the policy. He was on the fence of whether it was good or bad. But after thinking about it, and I'm going to let him mention it, he came on my side how this is really not good at all. But let me share my screen.
Because now that I think more about this policy, it is not just insane, it is absolutely idiotic what it's doing to hosts. Like already, I've talked to so many of you since my video a few days ago, and the cascade of bullshit, pardon my French, that is going to hit hosts everywhere because of this policy change is highly irresponsible. First off, let's talk about insurances. How many of you use a waiver program, like say Superhog or something like that? You are no longer allowed to use a waiver program unless you embed that into your final price. Okay, so you cannot selectively apply a waiver. You cannot list that there's a waiver and still be price competitive and show up in the algorithm appropriately and then give somebody your waiver after the fact. You can't do that. You can no longer protect yourself against abuse of like electricity. Remember the whole crypto mining thing? Some of you guys.
He agrees with me, which is rare. We rarely agree on a lot of stuff. And when I read this, it took me a second. I looked into the policy and I'm like, what the F is Airbnb thinking? And again, I go back to what I said before. And whenever you go back to this and you're prepared for this, and this is one of the things that if you're an operator, you really, really, really need to embed this in your brain. They're not your friend. Airbnb is not your friend. They're not on your side. They're on their side. He agrees. This is idiotic, man. It is super dumb. It's not only going to affect hosts, but it's affecting a lot of other companies. Like he just mentioned, Superhog, right? Superhog is a background check company in which some people use it. I personally don't use it, but I have used it in the past. Basically what it is, it's a link that you send the guest for them to register. They do a check and they tell you if that guest is good or not. You need to protect your property. Airbnb is not going to protect it. And one of the ways we protected ourselves was that way, but then we found a cheaper, better way to do it. And we started to do our background checks ourselves. Again, we did it through a link. We sent them a link where they upload that information. Can't do that anymore. So I couldn't know, even though I'm an API connected property, I can't collect a guest ID anymore. I can't verify if the person booking is a true person. If it's a valid, not a fraudulent person or someone with bad intentions, can't do that anymore. Airbnb, even though they gave you all that BS as to why they're doing this for transparency and safety, no, they're doing it because they are losing market share. Vrbo's catching up. Booking is kicking their ass in Europe. Direct bookings have increased dramatically. And one of the ways they're trying to prevent that is from preventing you to collect the data you need to market these guests in the future. And this is one of the ways they're doing it. And this is affecting everyone in the industry, even if you are an API connected property. You can collect the data you need so that you can retarget these guests. There's a couple of things that I'm planning on doing or changing so I can still collect this data. If you're interested in learning what these are, buy me a coffee. We'll talk about it. I don't want to put it here because if I put it here and Airbnb sees it, I don't want to get banned. And or I don't want them to make this a permanent policy. There is a workaround for you to still do this without violating the policy. But I'm not going to discuss it here. If you're interested, buy me a coffee and we'll have the discussion. But let me continue playing this. I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
They did not want to fill out a background check. Well, Airbnb is taking this even farther now that you can't even attempt to do this because you can get banned for it. Now, here's the problem. Us hosts know that Airbnb isn't the best at this. Sure, they're decent, right? The barrier to entry is low. We can get started with Airbnb and make enough money, but they still have a party problem. They absolutely have a party problem. They have a human trafficking problem. They have a gang activity problem, city to city. They've got violent crime. They've got drug dealing. People set up meth labs inside of properties. We see all sorts of stuff. And Airbnb's own personal screening does not do a sufficient job. And as long as Airbnb is a discount background check company that doesn't do the full work, we can't trust them.
That is huge, people, and it's true. You can't trust Airbnb. They don't have a track record that says that they're trustworthy. They don't. There's huge issues with these properties. And one of the ways that we use to protect ourselves is through these background checks, collecting this information. And the fact that they're taking that away from us, holy shit, people, it is frustrating. It boils my blood. As I mentioned when I started this video, I truly have a love-hate relationship with Airbnb because Airbnb, unfortunately, currently today, does have a huge part of the market share. Again, I'm praying that in 2026, I can cut that cord, and I'm going to show you the numbers. Every month, we have gotten better and better. And right now, the top 3 OTAs on my properties are Airbnb, Booking, and me. We're beating Vrbo, we're beating Marriott, we're beating all these other OTAs, but we still haven't been able to surpass the amount of guests that come through us from Airbnb. But I'm hoping that changes. But let's continue.
To get away with that. But because of Airbnb's anti-discrimination policy, you cannot even discriminate against people that are local to your property, right? So your ability to risk screen is completely curtailed. And if you have a party, right, Airbnb says you can't show up to the house. They're like, no, don't show up. Don't confront the guest. Call trust and safety and then call the police. They don't want you even there to de-escalate. They'll ban you if you do that wrong. So there's going to be parties that you can't prevent because you can't background check. There's going to be parties that you can't go and dissolve. You can't put cameras freaking anywhere or noise monitors freaking anywhere. Like, you have to be very specific in order to make sure that there's no parties. So you're technologically cut off. And so now that you can't remediate, they're going to trash your property or do stupid stuff or hold over. And then you've got to rely on Airbnb's aircover because you couldn't collect a waiver because you had to put it in your price. Airbnb is signing their own death sentence. This is the dumbest stuff. A lot of people are going to go to Vrbo and booking.com and start booking direct. A lot of people are going to leave the program. And I mean, like, okay, so now let me go back, right? Because all things are equal. I will just inject my one little nihilist philosophy here, which is the more people that quit, the easier it gets for the rest of us hosts. Sure. It's still stupid. They're still signing their own death warrant. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of hosts that quit because it's going to be problematic. And us hosts that are absolutely determined to stick around will come up with some bypasses and some workarounds.
Yes. And I fall on this boat as well. This is my love. This is my passion. I plan on doing this for the rest of my life. I will find a workaround on some of the stuff to continue to protect myself, my properties, and the properties of my owners that I manage their properties for them. I'm going to continue to do that. There's a lot of you guys that don't have the depth, don't have the money, don't have the team to be able to do some of the stuff that I can do. I've always talked about this in terms of regulations. Regulation never hurts corporate. Big corporate companies, regulations doesn't hurt. It actually helps them, right? Why? Because it eliminates the small guys. This right here doesn't hurt companies like me, companies like Sean. We're big enough to figure out workarounds, and we're big enough and have the reach to be able to sustain some of the issues that are going to arise from this. But if you're managing 1, 2, 3 properties, man, are you going to get destroyed with this, because this is going to truly hurt you. And again, Airbnb tells you you have nothing to worry about because you have aircover. If you had any experience with aircover, you know how much it sucks, how horrible dealing with Airbnb is. They have the worst customer service. And I don't want to say these people are dumb. They are the worst trained people on the planet, because if it doesn't check a box, they have no freaking clue. And that's going to lead me to this. Here's another wake-up call. And this is new to me because I didn't know this, but I just found out. And I'll have you know that I'm still fighting this. So let me stop sharing my screen here. I had this email. Let me give you some background on what happened here. In 2024, August, September of 2024, we purchased a property in Hollywood with the intention to put it on Airbnb. We did some renovations, we listed it, we decorated it, we put it up. It went live on December of 2024. December, January, February, we had some great months, great reviews, no issues with the property, super happy. But then, the beginning of April, we got an email from Airbnb letting me know that they're going to suspend or delist the property because we uploaded or relisted a property that was previously banned. They provided me the listing ID and the information on the property that was banned, and then the information of my listing. So when I looked at it, it is in fact the property that I purchased. So apparently, early in 2024, I believe in January of 2024, that property was delisted by Airbnb. Let me give you a background. If you follow the channel, you know that I've talked about how Airbnb is deactivating poor performing listings. Now, apparently, this is one of the listings that got deactivated for poor performance. It happened when they did that massive batch that they deactivated hundreds, if not thousands, of properties from Airbnb for poor performance. This particular property was one of them. Fast forward to my email. I see the email, figured out that the listing was delisted when I didn't own it, so I thought I had nothing to worry about. So I replied to the email, explained to them I'm a new owner, I provided the purchase contract, and I provided the Broward County Appraiser's Office property information showing when the property was sold, when it was purchased, and who purchased it, so they can see there's a change of ownership. And I also added the new renovations that we did on the property. We actually upgraded the property. And I thought I was going to be fine. But now I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you. This is the original listing. If you look at that number, you'll know, if you know anything about Airbnb, their listing number. This listing number shows that this property was listed for a while back, right? It has some history to it. Because you look at my listing number, look how long it is. This is a brand new listing. In the last 3 to 4 years, you know there's been thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of properties added to Airbnb. Now, we titled it Tropical Retreat. And as you see here, they titled it Relisted Listing ID. They write, hello, Fernando. Greetings from Airbnb. I am Samson, your senior case manager. I hope this message finds you well. Thanks for your inquiry and additional information you shared. After a full review, and I don't know how it can be a full review, because no one ever called me. I requested a phone call. I requested an explanation as to what was the violation. Never got it. Full review, we determined that your listing is not eligible to be reactivated based on the information available to us. Again, I'm having a hard time believing that they actually read it. And or if they read it, I'm having a hard time understanding how I can be punished for the actions of someone else and for a property that I had nothing to do with at the time. Own it, I didn't manage it, I didn't even know about it. And we have reviewed your appeal and have decided to uphold the original outcome of removing your listing. This is because it's determined that your listing is the same place, which it is. It's the same, it's the same property. Again, I upgraded, I did a bunch of stuff. We were active for several months, the property currently has a 5-star rating, 0 negative reviews. This is because it's determined that your listing is the same place as previously listing that was not following our ground rules for hosts. You can learn more about the ground rule of hosts, and here's the article, right? You may be eligible to continue hosting in previous listing if not removed for quality issues by Airbnb. Now, when you click on this, and let's click on it, and let me see if it comes up. Rules for hosts. We require hosts to follow our rules in this area. Reservation commitment, timely communication, listing accuracy, listing cleanliness, details, positive reviews, reservation commitment, meaning no cancellation. This is blah, 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 listing accuracy, all this stuff here. I asked multiple times, what rule did I freaking violate? Which of these ground rules did I violate? No one from Airbnb has yet to call me and tell me which rule I violated. No one. I've asked multiple times. I've even reached out through Twitter or X now to Brian Chesky, said, I'm going to look into it. No one's looked. I mean, it's frustrating because A, I didn't violate these rules, and B, I didn't even own the property when it happened. Moral of the story here, I get the following. Airbnb is a private enterprise. They can do what the F they want to do. If you are a YouTuber, if you're on Instagram, you got to understand you don't make the rules. They make the rules. I fully understand that. Even though I did not violate the rules, if they don't want me on the platform, they don't have to have me on the platform. But the moral of the story here is for you as an operator, this is why I've been preaching over and over and over and over again to not be dependent on Airbnb. They're not your friend. They don't have you in their best interest. Don't be relying on them. I'm going to be fine. This particular property will be fine. We're doing well with Vrbo, with Booking, and our direct booking website, and all the other platforms we're on. We're doing well. I do have to spend a little bit more time now marketing this specific property so we can get more bookings. Not a problem for me. Can you imagine if you had invested in this property to put this as a short-term rental, knowing that Airbnb is one of the #1 platforms and you have yet to create a marketing plan? You would be effed right now. Big capital F, because you would be out of business for something that you didn't do. Extremely frustrating, extremely disappointing, but it's reality, people. This is why I tell you, you cannot rely on any platform. You have to be self-dependent. Now, let me show you why I will be fine and why I emphasize greatly, like super, like crazy, people, making sure why you should be doing marketing. And if you don't know anything about marketing or you can't market, hire a company like mine. Let us market your property correctly so you're not dependent on any OTA. If something like this happens, you're still viable. You can still stay in business. You'll still be fine. Let me share my screen. All right, guys, this is why I'm going to be fine. So this is Porter, and here's our revenue sources. Airbnb, #1. I've already mentioned, this is why I have a love-hate relationship. They bring in a lot of money. And this quarter, they brought in $262,000. Booking brought in $143,000, and we are at $138,000. And we're beating out Vrbo and every other platform. As it relates to this specific property, I don't have to worry about it because I still have all these other OTAs that will make up the difference for Airbnb. Do I have to pay special attention to this property? Yes, definitely now. Really need to pay special attention to this property to make sure we're staying up and making sure that we keep our 70 to 85% occupancy rate that we always want. A couple of things here. If you are looking to buy a property, do your research, and you need to add this to your research because I never did this. I didn't know this was possible. I didn't know Airbnb will penalize you for the actions of someone else that you had no idea on. So now going forward, whenever we look at a property, we definitely now check to see, was it on the Airbnb platform? If it was, what was the standing? Because if it was on that platform and it was deactivated, I am not buying that property until I get confirmation from Airbnb that they will let it be on the platform. It's another step that you have to take, but it's a necessary step if you want to stay in this game. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Put them in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.